Hey guys, my name is Josh King, and welcome to my podcast, which I will be calling The Grave. The Grave is going to live on a blog of mine called A Bridge to Land, so check that out, and you can also get it pretty much anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. The point is just to pretty much discuss real-life ghost stories with real people. At the beginning, this first episode is going to be me telling my personal ghost stories, and then in each subsequent episode, it will be me introducing a friend, a family member, someone who comes forth and wants to tell their own ghost stories. I will be having call-outs via social media to see if anyone wants to sit down and chat about their own experiences. But the podcast is solely to kind of explore the paranormal and hopefully intrigue people about the possibility of an afterlife, kind of things of that nature, and kind of the more spiritual side of life. So getting into mine, I think I'll be telling you 4 today, time permitting, and they kind of spread the breadth of my life, if you will. So the first one was when I was roughly around 2 or 3, and we were driving in my hometown of Old Saybrook, Connecticut, where I grew up. In the town center, there is a white church. It's a congregational church, which falls under the Protestant umbrella, which is the religion I grew up in. I just remember we were coming back from my grandparents' house for some reason. It's actually like one of my earliest memories. And I remember sitting in the car seat, and I was kind of just hanging out, and I remember driving by the church, and the church has this massive steeple, attached to the main building. And I just remember looking up, and the steeple has a clock on it, and then on the sides are slats, like wooden slats. And I remember looking up at the clock, just for whatever reason, and I remember seeing a man in like a brown kind of checkered suit with like a fancy kind of top hat, not a top hat, but like a dress hat on. He had gray hair, which at any rate would have been strange, but he was actually walking sideways up the steeple, so like he was defying gravity. And it was just a very nonchalant walk, kind of just strutting up it. And I only watched him take 2-3 steps before we passed, that side of the church. And I just remember thinking, like, well, that was strange. But to this day, it's something I still think about. And I think, is that something that, as a young kid, you maybe just made up in your mind and have just carried it this entire time? Or is that something that as a kid, kids are supposed to be somewhat sensitive to those types of things, to the paranormal? So I thought maybe, that was just my first ghost experience, and I didn't even realize it until later on. And, I haven't seen that person to this day, but every time I drive by that church now, I definitely, take a glance up and see if that guy's still walking up the church. The next story is a little silly, but also definitely one of the strangest things that's ever happened to me. My grandfather and grandmother, they live also in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and we used to sleep over their house pretty much every weekend. It was kind of just like our weekend thing. My parents would drop us off on Saturday, and my parents would kind of have a night to themselves, which was, I'm sure, well-deserved. I have 2 brothers and a sister, all younger, so 4 kids in total. But my grandfather used to have a cat named Beanie, and this cat was a feral cat. He literally just brought it in from outside. It just came in one day, and he was like, "Hey, you're my cat now," and he would let it come and go as it pleased. But this cat was not friendly. It hated everyone except for my grandfather. And this cat, like, I reach under the couch to grab a toy that fell under there, and Beanie would just be there and like scratch your hand. So she really sucked. So he had her for probably, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years. She was already an older cat, but one day, one Saturday we got over there, and my grandmother said that my grandfather was not happy because Beanie had disappeared. And we were all fine with that, but he was in a mood. So everything proceeded as normal, that night, and we all went to bed in our back bedroom. And around 1:30, 2 in the morning, I got up and I had to go to the bathroom. Now to get to the bathroom, you have to exit out the guest bedroom, which is the last door in a long hallway. and walk all the way down the hallway, and they're right before the bathroom's to the right, but what faces you from the other end of the hallway is the basement door. So I walked down the hallway, and I think I turned on one light. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was brave enough not to, because they also lived right, like their backyard was a graveyard pretty much. Like there was a fence and then there was a graveyard, which added a whole nother level of horror to the house. And at any rate, it was always nerve-wracking going to the bathroom late at night by yourself in that dark house. So I was walking down the hallway, and I distinctly remember the door to the basement being closed, because the basement itself was creepy. I mean, it was half furnished, half kind of weird workspace for my grandfather, but I distinctly remember checking to make sure that door was closed. So I walked past the door, go into the bathroom, turn the light on. So I'm sitting there doing my business, and it just very faintly from the other side of the door, I start hearing this little scratching. It was just a little scratching that, it almost, if you didn't notice it, you wouldn't think anything of it. But I noticed it, and I stared at the door for a minute. It lasted about maybe 2-3 seconds, and it stopped. So I thought, well, that's weird, but I'm doing my business, and I'm not going to get up to see what that was. So maybe another minute passes, and again, same little scratches, but it's a little bit harder now on the door. It's a little more defined. You can kind of, that they're scratching. You couldn't mistake it for anything else. So there's this scratching, and at this point I was getting kind of upset. I was getting kind of nervous. I was like, I don't know what that is, and it's weird that it's just scratching. Like if it's someone, they would knock. So I got up, and I just kind of creak open the door and peek out. There's no one there. So now I'm a little nervous. I don't know what it is. In my mind, I'm like, there's a graveyard. There's got to be a ghost somewhere. This or that. So now I sit back down, and I'm determined just to finish my business and get back to the bedroom as quick as I can. And I sit back down, and as soon as I sat back down, I hear the same scratching again. And this time I was actually pissed off. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know what the hell this thing is, but I'm going to figure out, what the hell's making this noise. So I got up and just ripped open the door fully. And there's nothing there, but the basement door is now open about a foot. And like the darkness, the light from the bathroom is just pouring into the darkness of the basement. And as a young child, knowing that door was closed, and knowing that for all intents and purposes I was the only one up, that was a little more for me to bear. So I shut the door, I finished what I was doing, ran back to the bedroom, not checking to see after, honestly to this, I can't recall if when I ran back to the bedroom, that basement door was still open or closed or not. I should have looked, that is on me, but I can't help but think that demon cat, Beanie, was partly responsible. And I don't know if she was still in the house at that point. There was talk that she had been eaten by coyotes. There was talk that, she had just wandered off and never came back. So I don't know if she was still dead or alive at that point, but if it was the spirit of that godforsaken cat, she was still plaguing me as a child, even beyond the grave. My next story is a little more sinister in nature, only because I simply can't explain it. It's one of those things where I grew up in a house that for as far as I know, is not haunted. There was never anything paranormal that happened to me in that house. So to have what happened happen is, something that slightly bothersome, because it makes me feel that, something's kind of waiting for me, so to speak. Like it made itself known, but now it's just kind of waiting for me at some future point. I was probably 16 years old at this time, and I was in bed, and I remember waking up and looking at my clock, and the clock read, I don't quote me on this, but it was literally 3:44. It was early in the morning. And I remember rolling over, looking at my clock, looking at the time, and being like, crap, that's early, let's go back to sleep. So I rolled back over and stared at my wall. And I'm gonna mention here that I always slept with my bedroom door closed. It's for no other reason that, just security of having it closed off space instead of leaving it open for anyone to walk in. I guess my mentality was just like, you're safe if that door's closed type of thing. Not that I had anything to be afraid of, but, you know, it's just something that I always did. I just always shut the door. So I roll over and I look at the wall for about like a minute. And for whatever reason, I got this sensation that just something had changed in my room. Like I don't know what I didn't get, like there wasn't like a hair raising feeling, but just something felt off. So I rolled back over, and as I rolled over, kind of just standing over my bed was just this massive shadow figure, like completely black, head to toe. I couldn't really, it almost looked like a cloaked figure, like it looked like they were wearing a cloak of some kind. And no visible face or anything. It was just a big black hooded mass. And it stood over my bed, kind of just, I could tell it was looking down at me. And so the only thing I could think to do in the moment is just throw the covers over my head. So that's what I did. I threw the covers over my head. My heart was pounding. I didn't know what the hell it was. And I just waited. I was like, it's gonna get me. I can't look at it. I can't watch it get me. It's just gonna, I don't know what it was gonna do. So I waited under my covers for probably like 5 minutes, and nothing happened. Like literally nothing happened. And there was no touching, no noises, nothing. I heard not one sound. And so I finally bucked up the courage, and I like made a little peephole out of my covers that faced like my pillow, and I slowly moved it to where the figure had been standing, expecting to just see a black mass still standing there. And there was nothing. It was just gone. Literally nothing. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm okay. So I threw the covers off my head, and there's nothing in the room, but I look over at my door, and the door is wide open. Like wide open. And so I actually got out of bed, turned the light on, and kind of just peered out into, my darkened house. And because it was a very open floor plan, and again, I didn't see anything moving. I didn't hear anyone. My brother, who slept in the room adjacent to me, his door was closed because he did the same thing I did. So I opened his door, and as I thought he would be, he was sound asleep. And again, he would have had to have thrown either a blanket over him or, put on a dark there's no feasible way that he had gotten up and done that, silently, and then gotten back into bed without me hearing him in the next room. Like he would have had to have opened and closed his door. Like there's just no way. So that event has stuck with me for quite some time. But the last kind of tale I have for you guys is one that is definitely the one that has probably affected me most, in the sense that it's the first time in my life where I felt like something was specifically messing with me. And it's also the first time in my life that I truly believe I saw a full-bodied apparition. So I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain, my senior year of college. And before I got over there, I didn't have a place to stay. So my parents booked me this room for a week at this newly renovated hotel, just kind of off the main drag of Madrid. And it was kind of like on the outside, it kind of looked like they revamped a Holiday Inn or something like that, but it was a fine hotel. Like it was newly redone. Nothing too, it looked fine. I wasn't like, oh, this is a creepy hotel or anything. Check-in went fine. I got up to my room and kind of settled in. I had some orientation things that week, but it was a pretty easy week as far as that went. So I was trying to make friends. My wife, who at the time was my girlfriend, was coming over, but she wouldn't be over for another week or so. I just got there earlier to try and find, a place, hopefully before school started. So I get up to my room, and it's one of those rooms where I don't know if it's all European. I think they have them in America too, but to like work any light switch or anything like that, you had to stick your key card in a slot inside the room, and that like activated the ability to like turn on lights. So I figured that out and made myself at home, kind of got to know the area a little bit, explored that day. So because my wife wasn't there yet, she still wanted to, talk to me and things like that. So I would wait up, kind of late at night for her because the time difference is 6 hours. So I would wait up till, midnight sometimes 1 a.m. Like I'd set an alarm and just like kind of wake up and, talk with her for half an hour before she went to bed. And the first night, nothing happened as far as I can recall, like nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, but I will say, so my nightly routine consisted, so the hotel room was split off into 2 sections. There was like a main living office section, which had like a little corner desk for an office. There was a couch, TV, table, kind of snack bar area, things of that nature. And then there was a door, which you could open and close, which led to the bedroom and bathroom. And the bathroom was like, there was a small hallway, and then the bathroom was to the right. And to the if you're laying on the bed, like facing the door and the TV, there was to the right of me a closet that was, the doors were just mirror panels, which I had never had any cause to use, really. Everything was in a suitcase. I never hung anything up or anything. So the first night, like I said, nothing really strange happened, but I always shut that door to the living room, not for any like sinister reason, but only because, I always shut the lights off in there. I didn't want to waste electricity, so I shut the lights off in there, and I would usually leave like a bed, like a nightstand light on in the bedroom, just for when I woke up to talk to my wife, I wasn't in like complete darkness. And I usually fell asleep with the TV on. Actually, not usually. I did that every night. And if I didn't do that, or I didn't have the lamp light on, I used the bathroom light. So any variation of that was kind of, depending on the night, what I used as a night light, whether it was a TV in the bedstand lamp, or if it was the bathroom lamp. So, like I said, night 1, I didn't really notice anything. But night 2, I went through my regular routine. I had a drink. I came back in to the bedroom, and I shut the door. Turned the TV on, turned the bed lamp light on. I laid down, and I fell asleep. And I woke up, and the TV and the lamp light were off, but the bathroom light was now on. And I recall that being strange because I remember falling asleep with the TV on, and sure, you could say that was because of like a TV timer or something, but for whatever reason, that TV didn't have a timer. I would fall asleep at like, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock my time, because I was still getting used to the travel, the jet lag. And like 4 hours later, I'd wake up and that TV would still be on. So that immediately ruled that out for me. The lamplight, again, was a mystery because I know that's kind of the light situation I decided on. So I got up and I walked into the bathroom, and the faucet, the sink, is on just slightly. I can hear like this little trickle as I neared the bathroom, and I thought that's weird because as someone who like hates wasting water and hates wasting electricity and trying to be environmentally sound, I was like, I would never would have left the water running like that, because it wasn't a drip, it was like a steady little trickle stream, which was weird. So I pushed the faucet handle back to off and turned the water off. I actually just decided to leave the bathroom light on. I figured, if that's on, then that's what I'll use. Whatever. It's weird, but who knows what happened? I was asleep. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I had too much to drink and turned off the TV and the light and went to the bathroom to pee and then forgot. It's possible that that's what happened. So the next night, on day 3, same routine. I go to bed probably around like 10 o'clock. and my body's getting more acclimated to the time change. And that night, I decided, I was like, I'll just leave the bathroom light on. That worked out pretty well. I left the TV on because I knew that I'd be calling my wife that night, so I figured I'll leave that on. I'll wake up when I finally go to bed. I'll turn it off. So I go to bed. I fall asleep. And like I said, door's closed. And I wake up to my alarm probably around I think midnight, probably, roughly there, if in that time range. And as I wake up and TV's off, bathroom light's off, and the door to the living room's open. Automatically, I'm like, okay, someone's in here. So I turn on the light next to my bedstand in kind of like a panic, and I grab my phone. I don't know why I grabbed my phone, but I used the flashlight on my phone instead of just turning lights on, which was super weird, but in the moment, that's just what I thought to do. So I got up and, as I walked through the place, I turned lights on, but to look out into the living room, I used my phone to scan this darkened space. Upon satisfying myself that there was no one in the hotel room, I shut the door again and kind of just forgot about it. I was like, that is so weird. But again, in my mind, I was like, did I had been drinking some during those days. So, did I get drunk and, just forget that I opened that door, or that I didn't shut it fully and that it somehow swung, weird. But I know that door was shut. I can make up as many reasons as to what could have happened that it wouldn't have been, closed fully that night or anything like that. There's no reason for that door to have been open, and there's no reason for all the lights to have then been turned off. I certainly wouldn't have done that. So the fourth night, and keep in mind I only had this hotel room for 6 nights, I followed the same routine, and my wife was actually coming. This was the last night or so before she kind of got ready to come to Madrid. So, but at this point I was kind of leery of the room. I was like, this room's a little strange. And I'd actually that day found a friend who's one of my groomsmen at my wedding, a really good guy, still, talk to him to this day. But I met him at, an orientation event, and he suggested, he was living with a senora, and he said that there was an open room, or an open bed. We slept in the same bedroom. He's like, she has an open bed. If you want to come meet her and be my roommate, you seem like a cool guy, and let's do this. So in my mind, I was like, well, sounds better than my current situation. At least I won't be drinking by myself alone in a hotel room. I took him up on it pretty much that day. I went and saw the place, and that was it. I was like, cool. So I said I'll check out early at the hotel, and I'll be over in a day or two. So that was all settled. So I got back to the hotel room that night, and I was, normal routine. Got into the bedroom, left all the lights off in the office living area. I laid down, and normal routine, I left the TV on, and this time the bathroom on. I had my alarm set for a later time. I woke up at, I think, my normal time, right around midnight, to talk to my wife. Nothing had changed. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Everything was as I had left it. TV was still on, bathroom light was still on, door was closed. So I had a conversation with her, probably around 20 minutes. This was probably around 1 in the morning. We had a good conversation, told her about, the place I was going to be staying at, and that I met a friend. So, the conversation went well, and she was happy, and I couldn't wait to see her. So I remember putting the phone down, kind of checking I think I only got 3 American channels in the hotel TV, so I think it was some offshoot of CNN, some CNN International or something. And I remember looking at that, and I remember I had kind of sat up in the bed and kind of propped myself up with some pillows to talk to my wife. And I kind of just fell asleep sitting up. And I don't know, it must have been an hour or so. I can't tell you the time because I didn't take the time to notice at that point, but I woke back up. I'm going to say roughly about an hour after my phone call. And the TV was off, bathroom light was off, and the door to the living room is again completely open. And I'm realizing this, and I'm realizing the lighting in the room's changed since the bathroom light's now off, the TV's off, but there's still light in the room. And it's coming from my right, which is where to my left is the nightstand I usually turn off, and to my right is the lamp by the nightstand that's closest to the closet. And I'm kind of just registering all this, and I'm really freaked out because I'm staring into the darkness of the living space where the door's open, and I'm like, crap, this happened again. Like, what keeps doing this? Like, in my mind, I remember thinking that, like, what is the cause for this? Why does that door keep opening? And I turn, the only light in the room, in the whole apartment, or the whole hotel room now, is the lamp to my right, which, again, I never turned on, ever, at any point. So I turn to turn off the light, and when I do, there is a Hispanic girl, probably about 17 years old. She has dirty it's almost like, I almost want to say they were like leaves in her hair. It was like dirty, kind of ruffled hair, curly black hair, kind of probably a little past her shoulders. She wore a brown dirty smock, or just like a kind of, it wasn't a gown, but it was like a dirty brown, I guess a smock is the only way to say it. It was a full body length garment that was like dirty, and it was down. It almost looked like a burlap sack that she made into a dress or smock. And she had these like beautiful green eyes, and she had this look on her face that wasn't cruel or menacing or anything. It was almost just mischievous, and she gave me this kind of like this strange little smile, this little like quirk, like just like her lip. There was a little like uptick in the right side of her lips that like kind of just made it seem like she was like sneering's the wrong word, but giving me this like kind of mischievous smirk. And she stood there, and I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, there's a little girl in my room. Like, what the fuck? And I remember just blinking like a bunch of times because I don't think my mind could like register everything that had just happened, because it all happened in the span of like 5 seconds. And this girl who was, for what I saw, I couldn't see her legs or anything, but the little girl was full-bodied. She wasn't even like transparent. She was like just an actual girl. And I remember blinking like a lot of times in succession, and I remember every time I blinked, she was still there. I was like, Jesus, she's just standing here. And then probably after like, I don't know, 5 seconds of perpetual blinking and astonishment, she just disappeared. She was just completely gone. I remember getting out of bed and just ripping through the hotel room, like for any trace of this girl. There was no dirty footprints or, the lock on the door, like the little like metal bar you move over to like make sure no one can get in, even if they open the door. That was still there. There is just, I don't know how she could. I checked so the closet, when she disappeared, I remember like looking over at the closet, and the closet door was open probably like, I don't know, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet. And I remember thinking like, could she have come from a crawl space in the closet or something? So I opened the closet, and it's just a closet. There's no like secret panel or anything like that. It was just a closet. Checked under the bed. I checked everywhere for this girl, and she was gone. So I kind of chalk up all the experiences I had in that hotel room. I kind of give that up to her, and she was just kind of being just a kid, and she was having fun with me, I guess. I don't know. And I never felt I never was like horrified or like unnerved to be there. It was just every time that stuff would happen, I was like, I don't know how this is happening, and because it just didn't make any sense. And to have her do that, and just that smile on her face, like it's been me, like almost like she was saying, like, I've been having fun with you, type of thing. But again, it wasn't like menacing or evil. It was just she was having fun. So that's going to do it for me and my ghost stories. I hope that you found them to be interesting, if nothing else. But I also hope you may have listened to them and been very intrigued, and maybe it jogged your memory about something that happened to you in your childhood that you can't fully explain. And that's kind of the point of all this, is to hopefully just get you all to keep an open mind to things that you may not be able to fully explain, because while sometimes there is a explanation to things, sometimes there isn't. So thanks for joining me on my first episode of The Grave. Again, I'm your host, Josh King, and I hope to have you all back for some more scary stories.